Hello. I want to talk a little bit more on why I want to fight against feminism. I mean, there's different reasons, but I want to talk about one particular reason. I almost allowed feminist thinking to destroy my marriage. I almost destroyed my marriage twice because of a woman that had a mindset of a feminist. And I'm not proud of that. When my husband and I were first married, it was really difficult. We had a hard time getting along, and I am not gonna air out all the stuff that was going on because it's nobody's business. All you need to know is that my husband and I both had to learn to love and respect each other more. We both had to get off our high horse, so to speak. We both had to let go of pride. We both had to honor. We both had to learn to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. We had to, learn to listen to each other. And that's as far as I'll go with that. But going back a bit before it all started, it was probably by maybe a few months or so. I had a dream that a demon turned into my ex-boyfriend. And then the next thing I see is this particular woman. She handed me a big bag of trash. It was a big black bag that had a bunch of trash in it. And all the trash, landed on the floor. She decided to discipline me for it. Then I see that she was carrying 3 seemingly empty boxes, and she gave me, I think, about 2 or 3 empty boxes, then to follow her in the basement. And as we're going down the basement, as we're heading to the basement, I see a lot of water. It looks like it was shining and bright blue, and I'm seeing a bunch of kids playing in it. But as we go to a different section of the basement, within the basement there was a flight of stairs going to another room. And while we was going to this other room, I'm seeing a bunch of people partying up this room, bunch of red lights. And I see my mother-in-law wearing a red shirt, basically telling me that my marriage was dead. Then I run to my ex, and we decided to go into a private room together. On the way there, I see this little girl that looks like she's squished up in a little hole inside the wall. Like she was trapped there. And I stopped to try to help her. Then I see her at the top of the wall, and on the top, was some railings. And I asked her to come down to me, but she ran away. And she was wearing a pink shirt. She looked like she was probably maybe 5 or 6 years old. Couldn't really tell how old she was. She was young. But then I went into the other room with my ex. We started doing some things. And then I stopped and told him no. I decided I didn't want to do anything with him. And then he started turning into that demon. At the church I was going to at the time, they told me that it was a warning, basically saying that this particular woman was going to try to lead me down the wrong path that she herself took. And my ex was going to try to come back into my life. Well, shortly after that, my husband and I started having problems, and that woman tried to get me to divorce my husband twice. And I almost did twice, sadly. And my ex did indeed try to get back into my life. He tried to contact me on Facebook. It was like with him, it's like anytime he somehow knew that I was having relationship issues, he would try to get back into my life. Like even before I was married to my husband, when I was dating other guys before I met my husband, when I break up with him, all of a sudden he tried that particular ex tried to contact me again. He did again when he somehow knew I was having issues with my husband. Every time I almost thought about one, every time I thought about divorcing my husband, I just kept remembering that dream. And I knew it was God's way of telling me, do not follow down that path. Do not listen to her. Stay with your husband and work it out. And I'm so glad that I listened to God on this, because if I didn't, my life would be a whole lot worse right now. I mean, I like to watch videos from Pink Book lessons, and even some lessons. I mean, some videos are from MGTOW and um, other groups of men. Talking about what they expect from women and why they don't like how women act, basically like feminists. And so I listen to them and I take to heart, what they're saying. So I'm trying to look at things from a man's perspective too. I mean, I was already learning and reading the Bible and how I should treat my husband better. And I believe that God's given me wisdom also through some of the things I'm learning from some of these channels. Because I'm realizing things again from a man's perspective. And I advise many women to do the same, especially women who want to be in a relationship and eventually get married to a man. You really need to listen to them. Don't get hot and bothered and mad when they go against your feminist theology. You really need to look at things from their perspective. And when you're done watching the video, then read the comments. Because trust me, you're going to understand things a whole lot better if you so choose to. I mean, the ones I can't really watch too much are the ones that's got a cursing in it. I mean, I watch some of them as much as I can before I hear curse words. And as soon as I hear the curse word, I don't listen to it no more. But I do that because I try to listen to as much as I can to learn until it gets to that point. There are some channels that don't have a lot of cursing in it that talk about that stuff. So those I highly recommend the most. Pink Book lessons. I think the worst thing I've ever heard her say was basically saying 304. I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard her say. But other than that, she doesn't curse. Not that I've noticed anyway. But yes, I'm glad I listened to God and that I chose to save my marriage. And because of that, things have been gotten much better between me and my husband. I mean, it takes time. Things didn't happen in quick of a snap, but we're here. I mean, I really hate that a lot of women teach young women to be so weak when it comes to relationships. I mean, they basically advise girls to give up on their marriages as soon as they get, get, get a whiff of difficulty. I mean, it's like the parable of Jesus talking about the rock in the sand. Jesus being the rock, and in this comparison, the sand is feminism. Instead of listening to God on how you should build your relationship, you listen to feminism. And when you try to build a marriage on that, as soon as you get a whiff of difficulty, it just crumbles down so quickly. And because so many women have listened to feminists, they went along with the hate all men feminism mentality, many women have become very lonely. They have divorced good men and lost their families, lost the relationship they had with their children and other things, lost the respect of many people around them. The whole feminist, it's not worth it. The feminist mentality is not worth all that, bringing everybody around you pain, including yourself. It's not worth it. But working hard to save your marriage and to save your family, that's worth it. It's worth the effort. It's not easy, but it's possible. The one thing that women need to stop telling other women is that it's impossible to save a relationship, because they try to send out this message that as soon as you feel that things are not going right, you just got to skip and leave. You just need to leave him and find a better man. We're not told, well, not me, but most women are not told to be strong. I mean, with me, my mother never, ever taught me to be like a feminist. Never. In fact, she always told me that the woman follows the man. I remember months ago, I already live about 2.5 hours away from her. And I remember some months ago, my husband was thinking about moving to another state, and I kind of was having a hard time with it because I'm very close to my family. And I asked her, is she to be upset if we did move to another state? And she said, the woman follows the man. If that's what he feels you need to do, then you should do it for the benefit of your family. I won't be upset with him if he does it. The woman follows the man. I followed your dad and moved with him to another state. The woman follows the man. And my grandmother, my mom's mom, when my mom had issues with my dad earlier in their marriage, and she complained to my grandmother would ask her, well, what was your part in it? In other words, my grandmother didn't want to be biased. She wanted to know what my mom did wrong in the situation as well, so she could properly think about the whole situation and then give her advice what she should do, instead of doing things based off of bias. And that's honestly the attitude that more women should have. That's the kind of thing that more women should teach each other. We should teach each other to want to work into fixing our relationships to be better women. We should teach each other to practice it, what we're told to do in Ephesians 5, I believe it's 2 Peter chapter 3, and other things. The scriptures that tells women to love and respect their husbands, respect them as head of households, to cook for them, to clean for them. In fact, it says in the Bible that the elder should teach the younger, the older women should teach the younger women to love and respect their husbands. But sadly, for decades, many women have refused to do that, and because of that, a lot of men and a lot of women have been paying the price. Many women have taught so many lies to other women. Like one is the man is always wrong and the woman is always right, even when she's wrong. That's one of the ones I honestly cannot stand the most. I have never once told my husband he was always wrong. I never once told him that I was always right. I never told him that. I told him there were times he was right and there were times that I was right. There's so much different type of weird and bad things that feminist women have taught women. They're just full of narcissism, full of confusion, full of too high expectations, and other things. It's like no matter what a man does, you have to look at him as a crook. Like, you get offended if he opens the door for you because you're a boss chick. But then when he doesn't offer to open the door for you, then all of a sudden he's being mean and he's not being a gentleman. Too many women's got so many ridiculous double standards and all this back and forth. I mean, it's no wonder that a lot of men just don't even want to bother. A lot of men just gotten to the point where they just don't want to bother. Or they'll be a passport bro and find, a feminine woman across the seas. And you know what? If you want to be a passport, if you're a man and you want to be a passport bro, go all for it, dude. I'm not mad at you. I can understand why, you feel that in America there is slim pickings, because honestly, there is. There's very slim pickings here. But sadly, it's also the same, vice versa. There's slim pickings on both sides. But if you want to be a passport bro, go for it. Go get yourself a good woman and build a family. Because we need to encourage families being built, not families being broken down. So go ahead, get yourself a good wife, and make beautiful babies. Go ahead and do that. Don't listen to the feminists on this. They can't tell you that they don't want anything to do with you and then get mad when you choose to go find a good woman somewhere else. Especially if God is leading you to do that. If you're a Christian man and God is telling you to go find a woman somewhere else, then you need to listen. Listen, I saved my marriage because I listened to God. I mean, God is far more wise above all of us. He knows what he's talking about. So if he's telling you to find a wife somewhere else, then you better listen. Because he's already got the right girl in mind. You just have to make the effort to get her. And for women here in America, there's probably a man in America that God has in mind for you, but you need to be willing to do your part to get him. And no, being a boss chick feminist is not going to be the way to do it. In fact, you'll chase him away to somebody else. It is biblical, and it's also in statistics. The more the woman respects a man, the more the man loves the woman, and the more the man loves the woman, the more the woman respects the man. It's honestly that simple. It's a simple truth, simple statistics, simple things that are in the Bible. But yet, sadly, a lot of women want to treat it like as if it's the hardest thing in the world. When men say that accountability is like a kryptonite to women, well, a lot of women prove that to be correct. A lot of women do sadly prove that stereotype to be correct. I mean, just take for example, when a man asks a woman about a body count, a lot of feminist women get so ticked that a man would dare to even ask. But why shouldn't he? I mean, he's asking for a good reason. He's not the guy's got to protect himself. He has every right to ask you about your body count, especially if you ask him for his. Or, I'll just put it this way, if he cannot ask you for your body count, then you cannot ask him how much he makes. If he cannot ask you about how many men you've been with, then you cannot ask him what he's got in his wallet. You cannot ask him about his body account. And don't even bother asking him what he wants in a woman, because you clearly are not going to be that for him. Men have every right to want to protect themselves. So, no, women should not be shamed. I mean, not men, no, women. Men should not be shamed for asking for a woman's body count. Period. And besides, if she didn't have a lot of partners, then why is she so scared to tell him? I was honest with my husband about my past before I met him. I was honest with him that I had a past. I was honest with him that I did cause disease and got rid of it. I was honest with him about all that. And he didn't, but if he were to ask me, well, I would like for you to take the test again and check everything, make sure you don't have that still, I would honestly would not have no problem with that. Because he has every right to protect himself. But the truth is, I did, got rid of the chlamydia. I took a pill and it was gone. I was told that I could have gotten a string disease. I can't remember what it's called. That came with it, but the reason why I didn't was because a year prior to me me giving myself away was I got Gardasil, and the Gardasil protected me from the string disease. But yes, if my husband, asked me to get tests again, just so he knows for sure, again, I would not have an issue with that. Because he has every right to protect himself and to know and to be positive that I was telling the truth. Like if whether it's a woman asking a man or a man asking a woman, if they know that you had, or even just one partner before you got with them, it's not a bad thing to ask if there's a chance that you might have a disease. Because listen, sometimes you can just sleep with one person and get AIDS. Sometimes it just takes one partner. Sometimes it just takes one. So yes, everybody has a right to ask that question, because they have to look after themselves as well. Nobody should be shamed for asking that. It's not absurd. It's not being mean. It's not being cruel. Nobody should just blindly, go for it just because they don't want to be offensive. And by that, I mean they shouldn't just blindly, get with someone that's had multiple partners just because they don't want to be, they don't want to offend them for even daring to ask the question. I mean, there's so many wrong things in theology of feminism. It's ridiculous. But either way, bottom line, if you are a woman and you really want to know what you need to do, first off, humble yourself. First off, listen to the Lord. Second, humble yourself. Third, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Fourth, practice what God tells you to do and how you should treat a man, and don't complain about it. It's that simple. You do that, then you have much higher chances of saving your marriage if you're in one. You have much higher chances of finding a good husband if you just do that. Do not take advice from feminists, especially ones who either have never been married or have left their husbands just because they were bored with them, they had financial issues, or they just so easily gave up on their marriage because they felt they just couldn't get along. The person you should listen to the most on a relationship is God Himself. And also listen to people, and also, again, I advise listen to Pink Book Lessons or YouTube channels that talk about what men want from women. And again, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Listen to the video, and then read the comments and just take what they're saying. Don't get all feminist mode and get super offended as soon as they go against any theology, anything that goes against the feminist nonsense. I'm telling you, feminism's not going to get you a good relationship. It's not going to guarantee you the multi-million-dollar man that you fantasize of having. It's not going to get you either of those things. It's only going to get you down the path of loneliness. That's the only guarantee. Now, for any woman that chooses to just live a life of not having a husband and not having kids, if that's your choice, that's your choice. But don't whine and complain. If you are a raging feminist and you pushed men away, and listen, I'm not saying that all women that choose not to have children or husbands are raging feminists. There are conservative women, that could be traditional women that probably just choose, just to stay single to serve the Lord. Or just to stay single, just to stay single. But if you're a single woman that chooses to stay single because you're a man hater, like feminism has taught you, then don't turn around and complain when there are no good men around you. Or if you find good men around you and you complain that they don't want to put the ring on your finger. Because unlike what feminism has taught you, men are not always the problem. They're not. There are some men that truthfully are bad, evil men. But there's just as equally as much bad and evil women. So, for you, your decision would have to be, are you going to be one of those bad and evil women that has too high standards, that have double standards, that have ridiculous expectations on men? Or are you going to humble yourself before God? Are you going to humble yourself and learn to be an obedient, respectful, traditional woman. I would like a feminist woman and a conservative woman to do a social experiment. They should take Proverbs 7 and Proverbs 31 and ask many men, and not just men that they think they'll just fully agree with them, their theology. Like, it's easy for a feminist to go ask a bunch of simps. She needs to be willing to ask real men the question too. They should read both of the scriptures and then ask the man, which of these two women described in these scriptures sounds like wife material to you? And then be truthful about what the men say. I guarantee you that 99% of men would say, I want the Proverbs 31 girl. I want the girl where it says that she's a virtuous woman. I don't want the strange woman. I want the virtuous woman. I guarantee you that 99% of men would go for the girl that's described in Proverbs 31. Now, one last thing I want to say, just real quick. Had to find it real quick. One big thing the feminists teach women that's totally wrong is they tell women they could dress as much like a harlot as they want, and then tell men they should just control themselves. And yet, the feminists never tell women they should also control themselves when they lust after a man, whether it's a straight man or a gay man or a bi man, or if he's married or not married. If she wants him, then she should be able to have him, and he can't tell her no. And if he tells her no, then he's being mean. He's being mean. He's being sexist. They're even told by feminists they can go as far as touching that man and sexually harassing that man. Actually, sexually harassing him. And if he tells her no, oh, he's being mean. And he can't defend himself. They tell feminist chicks that man cannot defend himself, that he shouldn't defend himself, that he can't tell them no. And if he's telling them no, then he's being weak, that he's being mean. But yet, if a guy just says, hey, you're cute, oh, sexual harassment! Sweethearts, I know what it's like to be sexually harassed. For real. I know what it's like to be forced. I know what it's like to give myself away to men that I shouldn't have, and I know what it's like to be with just my husband. I've experienced all three.